Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. I wasn't going to do any videos for the next few days because I'm on holiday. I'm over in Lithuania, in Vilnius, having a good time. But in my hotel room yesterday, I watched Ray Ford give an exemplary, brilliant performance, way beyond his years. And he beat a very, very good opponent in Otanek Kholmatov. Both guys were undefeated. Kholmatov came in with the big reputation as a banger, but Ray Ford, even though he had a few cautionary moments early on in the fight, certainly in one of the earlier rounds he was clipped and shaken. I wouldn't say he was badly hurt, but he was certainly shaken from his toes to his forehead. And Kholmatov looked really dangerous early on, but there's no doubt that Ford showed a sort of ring wisdom beyond his years. He was, like I say, when Kholmatov was fresh, he was very, very dangerous. He had that upright stance, both southpaws, timed the backhand beautifully, blinded with the jab and fired the backhand, which is on a southpaw is obviously the left hand, and found it with great accuracy. And Ford had to mind his P's and Q's early on because it was looking a little bit, there were danger signs there. But Ford, who I think it's fair to say is, he has the better schooling, he has more variety. It's not that he fights ultra defensively. He can fight on the back foot and he can go forward. He counters very well. His accuracy is excellent. From the middle rounds on, he was banging to the body. And I think really, I got the impression that the experience, the better quality of opponents in the past is what won this fight for Ford, because Kholmatov for 6 rounds was totally in the fight, but gradually, ever so gradually, he kind of started to, I wouldn't say unravel, I wouldn't say he mentally collapsed at all, far from it, but there was an air of, this is uncharted waters for me. Whereas Ford, he seemed to, even though he was huffing and puffing a little bit in the later rounds, he seemed to sort of relish the opportunity of going into the last third of the fight, or the last quarter, the so-called championship rounds. Now, gradually from the middle rounds onwards, Ford was going through the gears, and he was being first with the punches, being a little bit less defensive minded. He was still getting clipped occasionally, and Kholmatov did not stop throwing punches. I mean, I can't really say that Kholmatov's performance was that bad. It lacked experience, and some of that, all those early knockouts, especially early on in his career when he was fighting absolute nobodies. I mean, that all kind of came home to roost a little bit. But the guy showed plenty of fortitude. Was clearly knackered after about 8 rounds. Still came on strong, trying to win the fight. He never ever stopped trying to win the fight. And what can you say about any fighter that does that? Sometimes the other guy's just better. And I think even though Ford had the better, say, more tools in the toolbox, and showed it and went through the gears more, he probably had a higher ring IQ as well. A huge part of that comes from his amateur schooling and also his ring IQ, which was really, really high. Kholmatov, it wasn't a case of Kholmatov doing anything wrong. Defensively, he wasn't great, but he wasn't really bad. He had that stand-up style, very sort of Eastern European style. But, a good example of how Ford went through the gears was he started to bang to the body in the middle rounds really hard. And Kholmatov was kind of throwing a couple back to the body. But Ford at no point looked like he was knocked out of his game plan, even though he was clipped a couple of times and shaken. Now, there was a clash of heads in one of the later rounds. I want to say the 10th or the 11th. And by the way, here's an example of why Kholmatov, hung tough, even though he was essentially losing the fight by the later rounds. He won that 11th round, and the clash of heads, which was earlier, seemed, it opened a cut. I think it was below Ford's eye. Blood was flowing. That kind of pepped up Kholmatov a bit, and it kind of egged him on. But in the 12th round, Ray Ford, he just had a bit too much of everything. And right at the end, I mean, the last 30 seconds, he clips Kholmatov. Kholmatov is flagging, he's spinning around. I think he was sort of mildly concussed, even though he wasn't trying to show it. It appeared that he turned his back because well, actually, there was a sort of knockdown that wasn't earlier on. I mean, about a minute to go in the final round, Kholmatov hit the floor, and there was a bit of wrestling, but I definitely thought the punches were what put him over. The referee said it was a slip, but then within 10, 15 seconds, the fight was over because Ford went straight at him, sent him spinning into one of the corners. Kholmatov didn't appear to know where he was. He didn't know how to defend himself. The referee's got no option, and the fight was stopped with, 15, 20 seconds to go. Maybe not even that. I forgot to look at the clock, but it was right at the end of the 12th round. Big up Ray Ford for an extremely impressive, precocious performance. But also thoughts to Kholmatov as well, who will have learnt a lot from this fight. You know, you come in with 12 wins, 11 KOs, a lot of those against very, very low opposition. It does not prepare you for 12 rounds against a guy who, you know, has got a draw on his record, has only got a 50% knockout ratio or thereabouts, which I'm talking about Ford, of course. Don't be fooled by these numbers. I said this in my preview video. It was very, very impressive from Ford. He broke the guy down. He stuck to his game plan. He proved he can do 12 hard rounds. He can take on a genuine banger. But Kholmatov can come back. You know, this was for the I think was it the WBC featherweight title? I'm losing track of who's got what. I think it was WBC, I think, but it could be the WBC. I don't even care, to be honest with you. A fight like this, it don't have to be for a belt, but it was. And it puts Ray Ford in the world title holder column, and what price him and Lopez, because Lopez won as well against Abe, the Japanese guy. I haven't watched that fight yet, but if I do, I'll do a little review of it. But Ray Ford, he came of age with this fight, no doubt about it. Big up Ray Ford. Commiserations to Kholmatov. What did you think of this fight? Did you watch it? I hope you did, because it was a cracker. Give me your opinions, and yeah, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and hit the like button as always. Much love from Lithuania. Take care of yourselves. Bye for now.